same page here.
Yeah. Doesn't happen often.
May not for our movie either. But yeah. Here we go.
Here we go.
Let's stay in the world of Dracula for a little longer today. Yeah.
So the movie of the episode is Nosferatu, written and directed by, or I guess adapted and directed by Robert Eggers. Yeah. Released in 2024. It came out at Christmas 2024.
Christmas Day.
You and I didn't go see this together. No, I went to see this with my buddy Pat.
You've seen it 6 times already before I saw it, I think. Yeah.
Not that much. So originally, obviously written by Bram Stoker and Henrik Galeen. Screenplay by Robert Eggers, directed by Robert Eggers as well. It stars Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Willem Dafoe, and Emma Corrin. So it is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake.
What? I thought it was about a guy scouting out
I thought it was about a real estate deal.
I thought this was a real estate movie. Oh, what movie was I watching?
So obviously that's a big part of the plot. So Nosferatu, I guess let's start and just chat a little bit about the history and the cultural kind of significance of the title Nosferatu.
Yeah, I mean, here's where I can jump in a little bit, because this is a remake of a remake, sort of. The original Nosferatu is more than 100 years old now. I was talking to you about this. We were talking about, have we seen this movie? And I had the privilege of seeing this at our local Sudbury Indie Cinema in 2022. They did a 100th anniversary screening of this film. I wish I would have known you better then. I would have dragged you along.
I would have gone. 100%.
Because it's a silent film, like all films in the 20s are, but they had a live orchestral performance.
Was that your first watch of it?
No, I had seen it before.
You had, okay.
But it added that interesting element, adding the soundscape to it, the music to it. So it just elevated it for me. I mean, it's a movie in the 1920s, so that it is what it is, right? But it's been seen as a classic. It was groundbreaking at its time, and it's been re-released multiple times, most recently by your guy, Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers,
yeah. So there's a rich history here, certainly.
Yeah, there definitely is. So, and then there's even a further history than that, 100 years, right? Because the book was written prior to that, obviously.
Yep.
So Bram Stoker had written a book called Dracula. And then at the time, the filmmakers of Nosferatu wanted to adapt it. But I mean, I don't know all of the business dealings at that time, whether they tried to get the rights to it or not, but they decided to make this movie without the permission of Bram Stoker. Right. And so this is why the title is Nosferatu, and it is Dracula. Why the titular vampire's name is Orlok in Nosferatu rather than
So you see it, you understand the inspiration, but they weren't sort of copywriting legally per se, right? They kind of gave it its own spin.
Basically tried to give it a spin and change some names, but the big strokes of the film, of the story, are essentially the same. And so the Bram Stoker may or may not have been alive at the time. I think maybe the family sued. I mean, I guess these details are not that important, but basically the family, with or without Bram Stoker himself, sued the production, and they were ordered to destroy all of the film and all of the evidence and anything that existed that had to do with the film Nosferatu. Ultimately, some of it survived, obviously, and that film is now known as like a classic and kind of the original gothic horror film, and has endured and is available to watch today. And so my experience with the film Nosferatu from 1922. Yep,
22.
I tried watching it. Had you ever seen a silent film before this?
Yeah, I've seen some Charlie Chaplin films and some of that world, but not sort of the horror genre.
Yeah, so I've watched a little bit of Buster Keaton stuff, and there's enough entertainment value there with the stunts that allowed me to kind of sit with it and enjoy it a little bit more. I couldn't get through the original Nosferatu, and that's just my own. It has nothing to do with the film. It's it's just a film from another era that just I couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'll watch the first 10 minutes, get a little bit of the setting, get a feel for it. I fast forwarded to about half of the movie, watched another 10 minutes or so, and then I watched the last 10-15 minutes just to get a feel for what the movie was and that kind of thing.
Have you seen the one from the late 70s?
No, the Werner Herzog, right?
Yeah. So the Eggers film is the plot beats are very much similar to Werner Herzog's version in the late 70s. So I'd be curious to get your take on that when you watch it. But
yeah, I have not seen the 70s version either. I probably should watch it.
Yeah, you should give it a look. I'd be curious to get your feedback. Obviously not as slick in the production design and cinematography of Robert Eggers, but there's some interesting takes on the story there as well. So needless to say, this story has been retold many times, and if anybody knows Robert Eggers, this is kind of his jam, right? Going back in time, finding historical stories with kind of dark and giving it his own sort of voice to them, right?
There are tons of Dracula movies too.
Yes,
right.
Sure are.
Not like Nosferatu. This is the third or fourth remaking of that specific take.
You've got Bram Stoker's Dracula,
but then
right?
You've got Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, and countless others, and then recently even a movie
Midnight Mass. We've done that. We had that conversation.
Yeah, I guess that's
kind of sort of.
Yeah. But the one I was going to mention was that I want to say 10 years. I remember watching this right around the time that Charlie was born. So probably 8 years or so ago, Netflix did a Dracula miniseries, which was basically 3 movies, 3 like hour and a half long movies.
Oh, interesting.
That are kind of sequential, like they are a story.
Yep.
And really enjoyed them. Definitely recommend checking out. They're a little bit of cheese there, but I guess camp is probably the word I'm looking for. It's a little bit campy, but I really enjoyed that telling of Dracula.
Yeah. Are they better than Krampus?
Better than Krampus.
Okay, I'm in.
For sure.
I gotta let that go now. No more Krampus on the podcast.
Nowhere near as campy as Krampus. It takes itself a lot more seriously, but there's a little bit a touch of camp there for sure.
Yeah.
Dracula on Netflix. It's a 3 kind of
extended
movie
trilogy
thing.
But they're not related. They're standalone each one, or do they?
No, they follow. They follow each other.
Interesting.
You could watch them individually because there's definitely huge.
Sure.
Beginning and ends to each one.
Right, but they're meant to flow.
And I really, really liked the first 2, a ton. And then the third one fell off a little bit for me. But I think it was more of a taste thing.
Like most trilogies,
Than, you're right. Yeah. It was more of a taste thing than an actual quality thing.
Cool.
I'd love for you to check that one out.
Yeah, for sure. So this was your favorite movie of the year.
This was my number one favorite
revealed our list.
movie of the year.
I'm just going to step out of your way for a few minutes, and I want to let you gush. Tell me why this was your favorite movie of the year. Tell me why you love this movie, and I'll tell you why I enjoyed it, but not quite as much as you. But I did like this film very much as well. So I'm not bashing this at all, but this was your jam. This is your genre. So,
and it's funny, my friend Pat, who I went to see it with, one of my kind of cinephile buddies that I go see movies with and stuff. He had the exact same kind of reaction. He's he really liked it a lot. It was more of an appreciation thing.
That's me with Eggers more often than not. I appreciate the heck out of him and his craft, but his movies don't personally connect with me as much as they do with you.
Totally fair. Yeah, this is definitely my jam, my genre.
Yeah.
But I had not taken in a ton of gothic horror. Not necessarily my favorite in the horror genre, but I really, really like this one. It just sung for me. I think another big thing was expectations, right? I saw a lot of buzz around this movie, and there's a lot of people just on the internet in general, film, Twitter, Facebook, whatnot, on social media that kind of said, "Oh, it was boring." It was not it wasn't exciting.
Expecting more gory action adventure stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I might have expected that too going in had I not known this is a Robert Eggers jam.
Right.
So
if this is someone's entry point to Eggers, they may not have got what they expected to see. Right?
For sure.
But having seen his 3 previous films, we kind of know what to expect going in.
What are you like? Yeah, tell me a little bit before we get into too much into this one. What is your general feelings about Eggers' prior movies? Like,
yeah, I don't think he's missed yet. He hasn't swung and missed.
Right.
I've liked them all to varying degrees.
Mm-hmm.
This is not my favorite. My favorite remains The Lighthouse.
Okay.
Because for me, like, it's just a two-hander with all the dialogue, and I just thought those 2 performances were great.
Those
so
guys,
I found that enthralling.
amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of in that, middle of his filmography for me. Not my favorite of his, not my least favorite of his. The Northman was kind of hit and miss. Like, it was a more ambitious as far as production and
this weirdest one,
for
sure.
Yeah. So I think that one's probably my least favorite. And this is probably third. And The Witch. This and The Witch are interchangeable. I like The Witch quite a bit, and The Lighthouse is my favorite. But I think this is an example of a director who just knows his niche, knows what he wants to do, and so far has been staying in his lane for the most part. Mm-hmm. It has been announced his next film. You want to reveal that?
Yeah, so he's doing Werewolf. Or Werewolf. Not sure the pronunciation of that, but
which will come out on Christmas Day, apparently.
Yeah.
It's going to be another Christmas Day. No, 2026. I think
it's
got some time. It hasn't really started yet, but. Okay. It's not supposed to be his darkest one yet. So for those who found Nosferatu boring, come back for Werewolf. It'll be more graphic.
Yeah, and dark. I think it takes place in the 1300s.
Yeah. Back in
this
England,
one, so he's definitely staying in his lane.
Yeah, he likes this historical.
But this is where he cooks, man. He's fantastic at what he does, regardless of whether or not you love his films or they're your favorite. You cannot deny the man's craft and his attention to detail, his ability to capture a moment in time, and that includes language. He does not shy away from using the original period appropriate.
Yeah, it's very much it's the opposite of Amelia Perez.
Yeah, exactly. The man does his research.
He does his research.
Like every screw and doorknob and sheet of paper, like everything you will see is going to be period accurate.
Prosthetic penis. I mean, we'll get there.
So let's get into our.
Can I get this one more Eggers story really quick? So, really cool experience watching The Lighthouse for the first time. It was at Cinefest, our local film festival, and like at the end of the movie, realized sitting directly in front of us were the production designers on the film.
No way.
And Eggers is really known for his production design.
And they are the stars of that movie.
And this was filmed in Eastern Canada.
That's right.
On an island out from Nova Scotia way.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's seen that movie, storms throughout the movie. And they said a lot of that was actual because there were massive storms raging. And basically they told me the last day of production, as they were leaving, the storms basically caused everything was destroyed. Basically, the little houses and everything they had built there, it all got destroyed by a real storm.
They finished just
in time, and then it just got flat.
Imagine the disaster if that had happened halfway through.
They said it was a pretty intense filming because as they were trying to create this atmosphere of this raging storm and these 2 guys falling into madness, there really was a crazy storm going on.
I also heard, and don't hold me to this because I don't really know the source, but I heard somewhere that Willem Dafoe lived on set.
He did, yes, yeah. They mentioned that as well.
For the whole period of the
he
filming,
got totally right in character and just stayed there. Yeah.
Whereas Robert Pattinson was like, no freaking way.
Yeah, well,
no chance I would.
He's kind of Eggers is kind of loyal to he's got his team, right?
Yeah,
he's got his team, and Dafoe again shows up here again in Nosferatu as he did in The Northman for a small role, and certainly in The Lighthouse. So. All right, let's get back to this movie, Matt.
Yeah,
talk to me about your favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, I love this movie. It felt it felt very poetic. I don't know why the term poetic keeps coming to mind. It's just like it starts off with Lily Rose Depp's character, kind of portrayed more as like a young woman or like a late age teenager maybe. Mm-hmm. And in the very beginning, essentially the presence or spirit of Nosferatu visits her. And we find out later in the film that her character has been kind of sensitive to the to spirits, to the occult, to the world. She's kind of sensitive to things. She mentioned she always knew what her Christmas gifts were before she opened them. She always had feelings about things. And so it is essentially in that very beginning, she feels lonely and isolated, and she essentially calls out for love or attention or, that kind of thing. And Nosferatu answers the call.
Yep.
Count Orlok.
Yep.
And I don't think he physically visits her, but in one way, shape, or form, it awakens him. And his spirit kind of shows up and takes her, and then they form this bond. And then, so we find out also through some of the dialogue in the film that Lily Rose Depp, in her young life, was always troubled, and they always treated it as a melancholy or a mental illness or like this kind of thing. And then when Thomas, the Nicholas Hoult character, shows up in her life, and they fall in love, it kind of settled her. And then for whatever reason, my take on it is that as we see Orlok in the film, he's still very decrepit and rotting and not healthy. So the way I kind of read it, correct me if I'm wrong or what you felt about it, but it kind of awoken him, whether he was in a grave or sleeping in his castle or whatever, maybe too weak. Something about her calling out
revitalized or summoned him, so to speak. And
then so he's slowly building his strength up to be able to come back to his full strength. And Count Orlok is something like 600 years old or 800 years old. He's like very, very old.
There's all these legends in the region going around, right? And so part of the movie is like it's a journey movie, right? Nicholas Hoult from it goes on his journey. This is where the real estate theme comes into play that I've been riffing on, right?
So the way I kind of read it is that, so when he gets finally enough strength that he feels like he can travel back to the populous areas to be able to kind of come back to power, his full evil power, he has to set things up. So obviously he needs a place to put his coffin. He's got to sleep in his coffin, in his dirt during the day, right? That's kind of how he operates. And so he sets this real estate deal up, and then clearly I guess he forms this sort of connection where Nicholas Holt's boss, I assume he's the owner.
He's the owner of the partner in the business that Nicholas Hoult works for,
the law firm.
Law firm, and he sort of lets him know that there's this property that needs to be sort of scouted out. This individual is interested in having a transaction with a law firm, right? So he gets sent on this mission.
So, and I think it's set up very purposefully in Orlok's plan to hire this specific law firm and have that specific person,
exactly, because of his connection with our protagonist, exactly, right?
And so Nicholas Hoult goes on this adventure, and he says it takes 6 weeks to get there, which means it's 3 months minimum, plus whatever amount of time he might be delayed, plus whatever amount of time he's actually on scene at this castle with Orlok handling the business. So during those 3 to 4 months, we basically see the Lily Rose Depp character kind of fall into madness, and her possession by the spirit of Nosferatu really takes hold because Thomas is gone. She mentioned that Thomas's presence is what kind of settled her, her issues. So we see Lily Rose Depp, and we can take a moment to pause here and talk about her performance. But she has these seizures, and
it's a very physical
performance. So she does all these faces and things with her tongue and the contortion of her body. And it's one of those things where I've seen it criticized, but I've also seen it praised. And I think it fully lands on whether or not you buy into this world. Are you on board? You get to this point in the movie. are you digging the sensibilities and the place and time? Are you digging the vibe that Robert Eggers has put in front of you? And if you're digging it and you're on board, it is thrilling and it is terrifying, and it gets you the goosebumps and all of that stuff.
She goes all in. I've heard some similar stories to her on set, similar to Willem Dafoe, some of the stuff she did just to kind of get into character and stay in character throughout. So whether or not you think it's a great performance or not, you have to respect the hell of it, because she really goes for it.
She goes for it. And I can 100% buy that if you are not vibing with this film, that it's just silly and stupid and she looks dumb and what the heck is she even doing here?
I never once thought that. I thought maybe at times it was a little one note with her, just her sadness and her melancholy, but I thought it fit the vibe of the film quite nicely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. I was a big fan of the performance, and that is in our last episode we kind of had our Oscar conversation, and I'm remiss I didn't mention Lily Rose Depp. I would have liked to see her
get a nomination.
But it's one of those things where, again, if you want to put her in, who do you take out?
Yeah, you got Demi Moore in there. Who would you take out, right?
Do you want to have even
two actors from two genre movies like this? Like, that's
our default answer has been get the Emilia Perez people out of there. But from what I understand, Zoe Saldana legitimately deserved this nomination as well.
Well, would Lily Rose Depp be a supporting, or would she be a lead? I mean, it's kind of hard to say who's the lead in this, right? Because she's off screen.
It's more of an ensemble.
It's more of an ensemble, and that probably works against all the performances because there's no one clear lead, right? So
that's true. Yeah. So Lily Rose Depp falls kind of into her melancholy, her madness, her possession, really in a big way. Meanwhile, Nicholas Holt's character Thomas arrives at Orlok's castle in my favorite sequence of the film, I think.
When he shows up to the castle?
Even before he shows up to the castle, when he
walks out and when he gets picked up by the
carriage. When he gets picked up by the carriage that has
cool shot. That's an amazing shot.
That has no driver.
Yeah.
And the horses come up and they jump up in the air, and then you cut to black.
Yeah.
And then you see Nicholas Holt's face, and he opens his eyes thinking he will have been trampled by these horses. Yeah. And then they're just standing there calmly waiting for him. And then the door of the carriage opens and there's no driver. Yeah. And you reluctantly goes up. That whole sequence is that's one of the most beautiful sequences and visually just incredible. And I'm so glad I got to see this in theaters twice, because it just blew me away. And then you obviously get the classic shot that I think I took a shot in the theater. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah,
I took a picture of the screen and sent it to you. I said, this is
the castle in the
so
distance
beautiful.
Up on a hill.
So you see the carriage kind of going down a hill, and you see the castle in the background, and it's dark and ominous, and the clouds and the moon, and then a pack of wolves chases it's Orlok's wolves. It's his kind of companions, chases behind the carriage. That shot. So the sequence of him getting into the carriage, getting up to the castle, is fantastic. And then that first scene of him going into the castle, sitting down with Count Orlok, doing some of the paperwork and some of the discussion there.
And the property bros vibes begin. Yeah.
Really, really worked for me. And there's just the most subtle, some of the most subtle things that the first time didn't even really hit me, or I didn't really internalize, is that there's a bunch of moments where Orlok moves positions around the table, around the room, but we never see it. Right? So it's Thomas is coming up the stairs, for example, and Orlok's 15 steps ahead of him, and he's saying you've come at a late time, my servants have all gone. Yes. Please forgive the blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Orlok goes around the corner, and then Thomas comes around the same corner, and then Orlok is nowhere to be seen. He's sitting at the table waiting.
Yeah, it's like, whoa,
it's like, how did he get over there? And that happens, I think, 2 or 3 more times within that scene where Orlok's directly behind Thomas when he's like serving him wine, and then Thomas takes a sip, puts his wine down, looks up, and Orlok's sitting at the other end of the table. Yeah, like there's just so many subtle moments.
Well, this is Eggers, like this sort of surreal, sort of supernatural, maybe not, kind of lingering in the background.
So these are the kind of things where if you're not vibing with it, if you're not loving it, you maybe don't even notice that stuff or care. But if you're eating it up and you notice these little details, you're like, oh, that's creepy. Yeah, that's cool.
And that rewards rewatches of movies like this, right? Because you pick up some of those details that maybe you miss on first viewing. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Thomas signs the deeds, and over the course of I won't go too much detail, but over the course of a couple of days, I want to say, he's there at the castle. He's having nightmares. He's not sleeping well. He's clearly getting sick for some reason. He finds bite marks over his heart. On his chest on a few occasions where he's like, what the heck happened there? And then in the final scene of the castle, you see Orlok. This shot like just blew me away. Not just the shot, but the sound design.
Yeah, sound design is
disgusting in the best way. But you see Orlok in front of a fireplace, nude. And he looks
prosthetic and all.
I'm not sure. I don't think we see that in this shot.
No, not in this shot. Later
but he's like on all fours over top of an unconscious Thomas with his face in his chest, drinking from his heart. And the gulping, sound and swallowing sound is just so disgusting. It's amazing. I love it. So then Thomas escapes the castle by jumping out of a window or falling out of a window. Kind of
goes full Get Out for a few minutes. Like, what am I doing here?
Get me out of here. And he falls into this river or the lake or whatever, and he washes up and ends up surviving, stumbles back home. And then we get the kind of denouement of like the Orlok arrives in London,
much like
England.
the game.
Or no, sorry, it's not London, England. Sorry, it's in the game. It is.
In the game, it's Whitby, England. Yeah.
In the movie, it's Germany.
Yes.
So, and that might be the difference between the Bram Stoker's versus the Nosferatu adaptation.
Yes. But similar to the game, right? We have the boat, and the boat arrives, and then stuff starts happening in the general populace, right? There's this darkness spreads over the land, literally spreads over the land in different scenes.
The plague comes with him, with the rats,
and the rats seen on board, which is nasty, and then chaos ensues.
Yeah, chaos ensues, and then there's a little bit of exposition here where we meet Willem Dafoe's character, who's kind of a Van Helsing, kind of the Van Helsing.
Yeah, I love Dafoe in this movie.
Dafoe's great.
When Dafoe shows up, it was kind of like I was vibing, then I was a bit out of the vibe, and then Dafoe comes like, all right, I'm back in again. I'm back in again. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, Dafoe was great. And kind of the low-key hilarious comic relief.
Yes.
He's a blast.
Which the movie needed a little bit of.
So he is very much over-the-top, silly character, but I just ate up every second of it.
Perfect for him. Yeah.
Loved it. So they kind of try to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to take care of this. And then, I don't want to go too much into detail of what happens, but we get a gorgeous, very poetic ending with Lily Rose Depp and Orlok.
Yeah, that final shot is one of the shots of the year for sure.
Yeah, it's gorgeous and haunting and beautiful and disgusting. It's all the things that I want out of a horror movie, especially one of this kind of this specific genre, like the gothic, dark, kind of ominous, slow burn vibes.
Did you think there was a bit of a meta narrative here? I know not all Eggers movies sometimes they're just meant to be vibed and be in that history, but do you think he was trying to say something broader to the culture or to the human experience in the telling of the story?
I haven't thought about it too much in terms of a few minor things there with specifically the Lily Rose Depp and her treatment of mental health. You know, they're just drugging her to try to keep her, so like to keep her at bay, to keep her calm. That felt a little bit like that hit home a little bit, because
Sure.
we definitely see that in our modern culture, where like people who are different than us and people that have mental health issues are often just like, nobody wants to deal with them, right? And they often just get put in homes.
Yeah.
And then like in order to control them, they're drugged and whatever. So yeah, it's like that's probably the main one that I take away.
Yeah.
There's definitely the plague there, which felt you know, plague was a big part of the kind of second act. You know, and us just coming off of COVID. So that was definitely felt. I felt that a lot more than I probably would have, you know, if I watched this movie 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, just it's interesting that this movie drops on Christmas Day, right? And you know, I'm just wondering if it's kind of maybe a bit of a meditation on the contagion of evil, and basically a meditation, or begs the question to the viewers: is evil something external, or is evil something from within?
Oh yeah,
from
that
without,
question
right?
was specifically asked by
that's one of the lines in the film,
yeah.
right? Like, you know,
does it come from within or
without, right? I think that sort of it kind of leaves that open for our interpretation about that, and maybe it's a little bit of both, right? And the plague is almost, you know, it's literal, but it can be symbolic of just the spread of the contagion of evil, right? If we don't keep it at bay, it can certainly spread like wildfire in our culture, in our world, which is kind of a word for today, I guess, too.
Yeah,
and not
like,
to read too deep on Eggers, because I don't think he's trying to do deep social commentary.
Yeah, and he also didn't like answer that question in any way, right? Like we didn't, like, although the Lily Rose Depp character was obviously severely influenced by her connection with Orlok. And she does have some like moments where we see her have the appearance of being evil.
Yeah.
But ultimately, in the end, she does not give in.
Right.
And she does probably the right thing.
Yes.
You know, to her, obviously is not a great ending for her specifically, but she did.
Don't spoil anything. A lot of people haven't seen this one, but yeah, it's worth watching.
So definitely I think she was probably influenced, but ultimately ended up kind of overcoming that.
Yeah.
Despite, I think, clearly showing a need and a want there for her connection with Orlok.
Yeah.
In a weird way. So,
yeah. No, it's a very good film. It's a pretty loaded cast. I could do without Aaron Taylor Johnson. Didn't really care for his performance, but he's not there too much. But Defoe's awesome. Depp's great. My favorite Letterboxd comment of the year, I was just bringing it back up. One of my favorite reviewers, podcaster, David Sims, he just simply said 2024 is the year of sweaty Nicholas Hoult. So between him playing a white supremacist in The Order and a juror, and juror number 2, who may or may not have committed
did a lot of sweating there.
He's done a lot of sweating this year. So I thought that was that sums up.
He was wet a lot in this movie.
He was wet a lot in all of his movies, especially this one. Yeah. Well, hey, if I had to go size up that property and deal with Orlok, I'd be sweating as well, right?
Yeah.
He's probably sweating because of excessive blood loss too.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. Like when you see Orlok kind of sucking on his chest like that, and the amount of gulping that you see just in that like 2 or 3 second shot, you start to wonder how much blood you can actually survive.
Yeah, he's gulping it down pretty good there, right?
Yeah. So
but between that and the substance, which we talked about last episode, we talked about quite a bit of blood these last 2 episodes.
Yeah. So like Eggers obviously is very period accurate. Whether he is anatomically accurate,
yes,
I don't know.
I
don't know. Yeah. Speaking of anatomy, if you see the movie, you know what we're joking about here. But there's a shot with Orlok. He's got a full, like, Bill Skarsgård plays Orlok, and he's got
unrecognizable. Yeah,
full body prosthetic.
Yeah.
Full body prosthetics. So we see the whole package.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask what you thought about that, because instead of going to the like traditional Orlok look, which is like the weaselly rat looking bald
with
teeth,
more Boris Karloff,
whatever,
big mustache, right?
And again, it has to do with him trying to be period accurate, right? Where like a Count living in that area of the world at that time
would have looked like that.
Would have had one of those big bushy hats.
Bushy hats and big bushy mustache to go with it.
Yeah. So I would have wondered what you thought about that. I think he sacrificed maybe a touch of like scary looking Orlok.
Yeah. Have you seen, maybe I said this to you, have you seen, speaking of substance, the overlay of like old decrepit Demi Moore? And then they overlay that with the mustache on Orlok, and it absolutely looks the same.
No.
Oh, man. We got to dig that up. We'll put this at the end of the episode for those watching, but it's so good. It's perfect.
Yeah.
No, it worked for me. It was fine.
I didn't care either way for it. I was surprised at first because I thought they were going to go more of that classic look,
more period accurate in the human sense of the word versus more of this otherworldly figure, I guess.
Yeah,
what he was going
but
for.
Once I got to like live with it for a minute, I still think he looks terrifying.
Yeah. No, there's some shots in this film that are indelibly marked on me in my mind that will be for years. Like the lighting in this film, some of the shadow work that's done, like the scene where she's sort of levitating in a room and
that opening sequence
there
so
with the shadow,
cool.
Or even the shadow of the hand going over the city there.
Yeah, and then the wind gust comes in and blows the like curtains into the room.
There's some pretty
and then in the shadow of that curtain, it's like for a split second going into the room, you see Orlok.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's pretty incredible what they pulled off with some of the scenes and shots in this film. And again, I have mad respect for Eggers. He's not one of my favorite directors, nor is this my favorite Eggers film, but there's so much to respect. And this film deserves a viewing on the biggest screen possible. I know it's come and gone from theaters, but if you haven't checked this one out, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I was a huge fan. Obviously, this is my favorite movie of the year. I have it as 5 stars for me. Absolutely loved it, and I watched it twice in theaters.
Nice.
And watched about half of it last night. I wanted to rewatch it. It got a little late, and I'm coming off night shift, so I kind of fizzled out there. But
I didn't get a chance to rewatch it. I wanted to before the episode, but I'll definitely give it another look, and I'll circle back to any of the Eggers films. I'll rewatch certainly.
I just rewatched The Witch last week.
Nice.
Just vibing with Eggers right now, and I wanted to check it out again. And that film that's my second favorite Eggers. After Nosferatu.
Nice. That's a good film as well.
Yeah. Lighthouse being my least favorite, but I still have it, I think, as a 4 star. Still loved it.
Sure.
It's fantastic. But Nosferatu just like hit with me in every way. It's like, it's my jam. It's my vibe. It's my genre. It's everything I want out of this kind of movie. Nice. So I'm super excited to see Werewolf. And everything else.
Christmas Day. Maybe we'll go see that one with you when it comes out there. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, this wasn't my favorite Eggers film. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and that might grow to a 4 on rewatch. But by no means does that mean I didn't like the film. I liked it quite a bit, and I'm glad you loved it, man. I'm glad it lived up to the expectations you were hoping for going in. Great.
Yeah. A little bit disappointed that it's not more prevalent in the Oscars. I felt like it deserved it. It got the obvious ones. It got the cinematography and the production design, which I think are just like
costume.
Anytime he makes a movie, he'll probably be right there for those 2 categories.
You would hope so. I think so.
But I would have liked to see maybe Lily Rose Depp get in there.
But like we said, it's more of an ensemble. Like this is not like Pattinson and Defoe cooking on screen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's our review of Dracula versus Van Helsing and Nosferatu. If you're enjoying the pod, please take a few minutes to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. You can follow us on Instagram at Dice Camera Action Pod. If you have any feedback, comments, or would like to suggest a movie game pairing for future episodes, please email us at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and take care.
This movie does not suck.
It does not suck.